Hi there, and welcome to our first Haloo, Say Haloo to. And today's guest is Tamara Rabenold. I'm really happy to have you here, Tamara. Will you, first of all, maybe just give us a brief introduction to yourself?
Thank you. Thrilled to be here as well. And I am Tamara Rabenold, owner of Vaudra International. We are an IP investigations and brand protection company and have been serving this industry in this space for over 20 years. We celebrate 22 years in business tomorrow on March 4th, actually.
To know you a little bit further, our first question is just to dig into your trademark origin story. So, what sparked your passion for IP?
Well, I've always loved branding and the power of brands and even have my degree in integrated marketing. So my first job out of college was at a small marketing agency, and I actually brought Vodra on as a client to build their corporate identity package. So in helping to build that first website and the brochure, that's really when I came to understand brands as trademarks and intellectual property because that really wasn't necessarily ingrained in me in my marketing degree.
Mhm.
And then of course that the impact of that IP. So that was really in learning about Vodra and then what they did with investigations and to protect some of the biggest brands in the world and that I just admired and respected and just found completely fascinating. Um, that was kind of my first exposure to it. And then when I was offered an opportunity to interview for a position as an investigator, I jumped at it, needless to say, and that was now over 21 years ago.
Wow, yeah, we've all fallen into trademarks in different ways, and with that marketing background, the next question might be interesting as well. So do you have a favorite trademark? Is there a brand that means something to you? What does it mean to you?
I really had to think about this because I have favorite like categories of trademarks. I really think back to like the nostalgia of childhood and my favorite brands that I grew up with, like playing pretend for hours with my little sister, My Little Pony and Barbie and Care Bears. So that's really like it's those brands that really mean something to me, that IP. And when I think about it, and it's only been in the past couple years that we've really kind of redefined our mission, which is safeguarding brands and innovations to survive generations. And that sticks with me because it's like I want my niece and nephew to have the same kind of familiarity and love of the trademarks that they grew up with and then get to pass along because that's just kind of that impact of that brand over generations.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it really can have a long-term impact, can't it? Um, so you mentioned 21 years in the IP industry. Looking back, what's been the most seismic shift in the IP landscape since you started navigating it?
Well, it's the speed at which everything moves and the interconnectivity of all of it. And it's also that kind of one-off custom nature of things. I mean, 20 years ago, when you were dealing with counterfeiters, you'd have more people sitting with inventory instead of now you have, and not that there aren't still people sitting with inventory, but it's not in the volume and it's not as accessible as it once was because now it's very much like an on demand, made to order. You have the Etsy's, the Redbubble, you have all these sites that can do these one off counterfeit productions.
Yeah,
Um, and so, that's where the counterfeiter can shift easily. And it's all of that technology that has advanced things from the speed to concept to production to delivery. It's the Amazon of things.
right.
So, and it's like you think about it, like Amazon didn't really even get big until the early 2000s. So, I mean, it's 20 years ago. A lot has changed.
Yeah. Definitely has, definitely has. Excellent. So we've got International Women's Day coming up in a few days' time. So we thought we'd ask you a few questions as an international woman who's done very well in business. Um, was there a woman though early on in your career who was a role model for you when you started in business, and how did she inspire you?
There wasn't one woman, there were a lot of women. Um, And it was, I mean, they really were our female clients. And so starting out and being a brand new investigator and really being embraced and encouraged by female clients in particular in getting to know them and building relationships with them and really being able to connect and then seeing these women that I had an opportunity to work with and support through investigations and have really get to know their families, like all of those things. Then I'd see them on stage at a conference or doing a panel or a webinar, and that was like, okay, that stood out to me because, of course, even the women attorneys in our industry, I mean, we're in a male-dominated industry, both as investigators and for attorneys. So, that was really, what made a difference to me and kind of how I wanted to just be seen, and it was seeing them do those kind of great things and kind of standing up and speaking up, was what helped drive me to wanna just continue to be out there, put myself out there, and, be a leader and a woman's voice in the space.
Excellent. Yeah. So obviously you are a women-led IP investigations firm. How do you see that as your competitive advantage?
Well, it really is our ability to connect and have that empathy and understand what they're going through. And that means the brand, that means the frustrations that the internal, whether it's a quality control person or a brand protection person or an associate attorney or somebody that's, striving to be partner. It's like it's really being able to connect and say, okay, how can we have an impact on what they're trying to achieve through our investigative support? And then how can we like level up and add more value to what they're trying to do so that it can be even better? And I think that's just it's always that drive to push. And I think, being in a male dominated space, just as an investigator, the investigative industry as a whole, it's a lot of former law enforcement. We're not.
Mhm.
And it's really kind of and it's taken me time to really embrace that because yes, there's pros and cons. It's the diversity of perspective. It's all of the different ways that we can bring value to what we're doing as investigative professionals, as people in the brand protection space. Um, but it's really kind of seeing how I mean, that's what's pushed me. And that is what I mean, and that's what makes me want to continually look for that competitive advantage for our clients and in those investigations. And so it's kind of, I guess it's that automatic push because you're already in an industry where you're kind of the unicorn, the one that stands out because, you've got the blonde curly hair and you're walking around in whatever sequin jacket on occasion. And so it's just kind of embracing that and kind of saying, okay, this is how we're just going to keep trying to push it. And we do the same thing with our investigations when we're supporting clients.
Yeah, great. I love the idea of embracing the unicorn. That's that's fantastic. Um, you obviously, as a leader of women, how do you ensure that the women in your team can meet their potential?
It's not being afraid to embrace who we are as women and not shy away from the emotion and the empathy and the intuition and some of those kind of um, those things that are natural to us in ways that men can certainly develop and develop that EQ as well, but it's just more innate to us as women. And so, really, kind of using that and not being afraid to step into that and really find different ways to connect with people and get to know them. And again, let your vulnerabilities show. Like it's okay to make mistakes. Everybody does. That's how we learn and grow. And just kind of, and that's I say that to myself too very regularly because it really is about just continuing to see how we can improve and grow and kind of build. And really, I mean, I lead a small team of 5 women and men, and it's really encouraging everybody to kind of like own their authenticity And that is the best way to connect.
Excellent. No, that's great. Great advice. Going to ask you to get your crystal ball out now a little bit. Is there one trend or innovation that you think will redefine the IP industry over the next 5 years?
Well, I mean, I think everybody sees AI and the advancing technology just I, leaps and bounds, the speed. Um, that I think is definitely going to continue to impact the industry. And similar to a comment I made earlier about that kind of the one offs and the custom nature of things that are even more possible with, I mean, it was like the 3D printing. That was another way to kind of make these one off iterations of counterfeits. So it's like then, that challenge of if you're really trying to go after with somebody with inventory to achieve a certain threshold for criminal enforcement or to make it more appealing for civil enforcement and going after assets and all of that, it's becomes a lot harder to prove when you don't have the kind of volume that you once did, um, because it is more of those like pop-up shops and that on demand kind of world we're in. So I think that is going to continue to be something that kind of redefines the way that we work, the changes the way that we conduct investigations, changes the way that, um, you know, law enforcement, attorneys, brands kind of evaluating like what is that impact? Um, I also think because it's making us more efficient in some ways, it's going to change the way the billable hour works. I mean, for attorneys and investigators, I know there are folks out there that do flat fee and do project based pricing. Um, it almost ugh, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around how to make that work
Mhm.
for investigations because every investigation is different. But I think there's going to come a point where we're really going to be unhandcuffed from the billable hour because we will have to be, um, because it won't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that looks like. I wish the crystal ball would also tell me how it was all gonna work because I literally it's like it's been simmering in the back of my mind for so long and trying to figure out how to, um and something where you never know what the end is gonna look like. You never know the twists and turns of how an investigation is gonna turn out. Like, how do you how do you wrap that up into something that is a project or a flat fee?
Mhm.
um, or more of like that value-based structure. So I think that's another thing that's going to be really interesting as we continue to find ways to improve efficiencies and technology helps us. I mean, it also means you have to sort through a lot of gunk too, and you have to be a lot better at seeing where you can really pull out the value. Because I mean, AI doesn't have heart at this point. It still needs that personal touch and that personal connection. So, I mean, obviously that's what we bring to it, but and with that interpretation, but there is going to be a point where there's so many things that it can accelerate that it's like where are the other ways that we can really add value and then how do you monetize that so that it's fair to all involved. I mean, you want it to be a win for the brand, a win for the company, a win for the person doing it and feeling, finding that fulfillment and feeling that they just really nailed it and succeeded in that case and secured the win. So yeah, I think I would love the solutions as opposed to just seeing all of this kind of mystery stuff in the crystal ball.
No, that makes sense. I guess maybe the hardest bit is accepting and knowing that it's coming. So you've done that bit. It's just how you get there that's the that's the question. So it is time for our last question, actually. So when you step away from the world of brands and logos, how do you find your escape? What recharges your creative batteries?
So simple, but it really is unplugging and getting away from the electronic leash of my cell phone, my laptop, and just being outside, being in sunshine, walking the dogs, laughing with my husband as we did it this weekend with a walk with the dogs going up and down the driveway and just simple and just Oh, and just enjoyed we have this beautiful spring weather, that's fooling all of the plants right now. I'm sure the cold snap is coming again. It's how North Carolina is. Um, but just the simple one-on-one, just, being present where I am and not thinking about, what I need to do next, or what's on my to-do list, and just kind of taking that time, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying my fur babies. Um, and I'm still a very novice motorcycle rider. I'm working on that, but that is such a like mentally freeing. Like obviously, cannot have any mobile devices in that scenario. So I really enjoyed that too because it just sparks your awareness in a completely different way. And of course, I also there's a little bit of a fear factor there at moments.
Mhm.
So that is another way that, and it just got inspected. It was that time of year. So I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get out there again. And now that the weather's nice, as I mentioned with the sunshine, um, hope to get some rides in this year.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for chatting to us today. It's been great to get you to know you a little bit better and to learn from your experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and for this opportunity. I think what you're doing at Haloo is just fantastic, and I'm thrilled to be here to support another woman-owned business too.
Excellent. Thank you.